Uh, Michael Fuchs, writing at The Guardian, points out something that you and I have been talking about for the better part of, what, 14 years? And that is how this country under George Bush initiated perhaps the greatest strategic disaster in U.S. history. That was the invasion and slaughter of innocent people in Iraq. It was unnecessary, except the greedheads in our capitalistic, fucked up country wanted the oil. And B, or maybe this is A, it diverted attention away from the military activity we were involved in Afghanistan after being told that Afghanistan was the place where terrorists are trained. And if you believe that horse shit, I've got all kinds of property on the beach in Florida that you might be interested in buying. That's bullshit. Afghanistan is no more of a terror training ground than Pakistan or China or Brazil or the United States. But it's easy because there were madrasas in Afghanistan. There were schools of fundamentalist Islamic teaching in Afghanistan. And it was easy to convince the American public that that's where the terrorists came from, who bombed Lower Manhattan in 2001, which totally ignores the fact that A, 15 of the 19 bombers were Saudis, and B, the Saudi government, such as it is, the Saudi royal family, I should say, there's no government there. It's a royal dictatorship. But the Saudis, the royal dictators, are the ones who funded whatever schools are going on to teach people to blow up and murder non-Muslims. So while Saudi Arabia was responsible for the support and the establishment of those madrasas, they were also responsible for raising up the people who came to this country and murdered 3,000 individuals 16 years ago. But Saudi Arabia is the country that to whom we furnish all sorts of military weaponry and death-dealing weapons, so they can, in this particular instance, that's going on right now, they can continue their slaughter of people in Yemen, backed by the United States. See, once again, we're doing it again, this time to another ragged, poor nation, Yemen. And because the people in Yemen had had enough and rebelled, the Houthi rebels, isn't that funny? The Houthi rebels, those are the ones that we decided we wanted to kill. But we didn't want to kill them, ourselves. We don't want all that blood all over our nice clothing. So the Houthis, being Shia, would be perfect targets for the Saudis, being Sunni. So it didn't take much for the United States to say to the Saudis, we're going to give you all these toys, all these destructive toys. We're going to give you billions. We've been giving you billions of dollars in weapons of mass death. We want you to go use them on the Yemeni people. I mean, what the fuck? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Are we deliberately trying to create people who strike back at the United States and its allies across Europe, for example, by blowing up buses and trains and trucks and people? I mean, why do we continue to treat these people of a different religion, a different nationality, why do we treat them with such contempt? The ones that we want to see destroyed. Now, the Saudis, who are probably the most prominent purveyors of international violence and terrorism on earth, the Saudis, in terms of their teaching and their providing the resources for weaponry. But they're our great allies. The orange asshole in the White House, when he was in Saudi Arabia, even got up and did a sword dance. Did you watch that? Wasn't that cool? Huh? Trump really has a lot of rhythm, doesn't he? Huh? Jesus Christ. What an embarrassment to those of us white people who can still be embarrassed from some of the shit that we've pulled on people of color. But there was Trump, bouncing his girth around. Well, it wasn't bouncing. That fucker can't bounce. And more like plotting, with these Saudi royals who probably that afternoon were cutting people's heads off for stealing a loaf of bread or flaying the shit from women, just beating them to death because they had the absolute temerity to go drive a car. So that's what the Saudis do during the afternoon. At night, they do the stupid fucking sword dance with Trump. And it is a stupid fucking dance. It really is. A sword dance? Give me a break. A sword dance. I guess they have to... Oh, Mike, are you insulting ancient cultural tradition? In this case, yes, I am. As long as our dumbass president participates in it, yeah, it's ridiculous. But I digress. Anyway, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney led the mighty U.S. military away from its objective in Afghanistan and to a new objective, and that was the bloodletting, the slaughter, the destruction, the mass murder, the war crimes that we perpetrated in Iraq. Hundreds of thousands dead and wounded in that country. Untold economic catastrophe. States in the Middle East in complete ruin. I mean, we don't pay that much attention anymore, do we, to the damage that George W. Bush did to the fucking world. Well, I don't know. For some reason, it's like, oh, yeah, okay. And in fact, lately on television, I've been seeing these ghosts, these vampires, these zombies from both Bush administrations. People like Negroponte. People like, what's the one that means of the devil? Chertoff. Michael Chertoff. Chertoff is Russian for of the devil. Seriously. John Yoo, who is a distinguished professor at UC Berkeley. All of these monstrous sons of bitches who are complicit in war crimes are showing up now on places like, oh my goodness, MSNBC? What the fuck is going on at MSNBC? I tuned in there the other day, and I see Katie Tur interviewing John Negroponte. The only way you should interview John Negroponte is through fucking prison bars with him on the inside. But there he is on MSNBC with that hideously misshapen head of his that's just chock full of bats and worms and shit. You just know it is. That's an evil man. And there's Katie Tur, who used to be one of my heroes because of what she and the three other women did during the on MSNBC during the campaign. All to no avail, Trump still managed to steal the presidency. But we don't focus enough on the way things are now globally and how you can trace that back. Just like you can trace a dead mother of three right back to Donald Trump with the easing of these gun laws. You can trace all of the chaos that's going on in the Middle East and beyond right back to that goddamn gang that worked for George W. Bush, including one of the most evil fuckers on earth, right up there with Henry Kissinger, Dick Cheney. Meanwhile, any effort to try to track down the plotters to 9/11 languished. And as George W. Bush said about Osama bin Laden, he tried to kill my dad. Or was it Saddam? I think it was Saddam. He tried to kill my dad. Ignorant son of a bitch. And now George W. Bush, hey, smiley-faced rat bastard, mass killer, war criminal. Why didn't we allow Goebbels and Hitler, and of course he killed himself, but why didn't we allow the Nazi high command just to wander around, write books, do paintings? Hitler was a painter at one time. Why didn't we allow them just to roam free? No, those people we put on trial. And large number of them we executed by hanging, not the military way with a firing squad, but the denigrating way with a rope around their fucking necks. But there's George Bush. Yeah, hello. And the carnage and the chaos and the destruction that's going on in various parts of the world, the failed states. And a failed state is a perfect petri dish for people who want to commit acts of terror against other people. So George Bush and Dick Cheney provide, and their entire gang of sons of bitches and war criminals, they provided for the world 2 or 3 nests where terrorists could be born and nurtured and released. We don't talk about that anymore, do we? We focus on this orange asshole who says things like Rocket Man. Jesus Christ. Back to The Guardian. They write, Trump's first speech before the UN General Assembly this week made clear that Trump wants to take America down a similar path as George Bush did, by diverting much-needed attention from North Korea to starting an unnecessary conflict with Iran.